Ma'am, do you have any connection with Arnaya or something? Your name is Miss Leela?
Yeah, no, my granddaughter is called Aranya, and I'm actually talking on her computer. Mine doesn't seem to pick up Zoom, and I'm very bad with laptops and computers in any case. So I love writing, but I'm really poor at all this, the logic of computers. So I'm very happy she's organized this for me.
Wow, that's so great to know. And yes, let me talk a little bit about you to our students. That Miss Leela, is it okay if I call you Miss Leela? Or
of course, just call me Leela. Call me Leela. Call me Mrs. B. That's what all the children call me.
Okay.
I'll explain about that later. You can call me Mrs. Broome. Anything you like is fine with me.
Wonderful. Okay, so I choose Mrs. B. It sounds like very bookish, like a character from the book. So yes, Mrs. B is writing books, and she has written so many wonderful books. And the name of the book, if you look at the name of the books, they are not from the person's name. There are some objects in the book. So if you can look at the, I would request Emma ma'am, if you can share the screen, the invitation screen, ma'am, so even students can have a look at all the books from ma'am.
Okay, so here's one of them. This is, it's all backwards, I'm afraid. I'm hopeless at, that's better. But it's actually, when you read it, it's Flute in the Forest. It's all backwards for you, I guess. And then there's Red Kite Adventure.
Yeah.
This is especially for your age group. You will love this book. And then I have this third one, and it's called the Anaishola Chronicle. I'll explain about that later on. And my last one, which I've just finished last year in December, it came out, which was Earthquake Boy. So
I wanted to read it.
I've seen the video.
Then I've also got.
I want to read all of them.
Oh, very good. Fantastic.
I've seen the video about it in the YouTube.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too. We can't go outside and buy books.
So they have so much books.
Okay.
Okay, children, now we will go on mute, and Miss Leela will talk about her journey, and when she is asking you question, that time you can unmute yourself. Okay, so have full discipline. And I would also like to introduce Tarleen ma'am. She is associated with this project, which grade 3 and 4 last year were doing. So Tarleen ma'am.
Very good morning, ma'am.
She's Tarleen. Yeah.
So looking forward for the session today. A very warm welcome from my end.
Thank you. Thank you, Tarleen.
Yes, ma'am.
So the kids are all ready and waiting to hear what I have to say.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You all.
Do they have any idea? Do they have any idea of what I'm going to talk about? Have they any idea about my background? Children? Anyone can answer.
I don't have the foggiest idea.
Oh,
No, but we want to know a lot from you.
That's great. That's very good. I'll explain. Okay, so when I was just 14 years old, I started thinking about writing, and I was very fond of reading. I loved reading a lot, and I was lucky. I had a very, very good English teacher who saw that I liked to read, and she encouraged me, and she said, Leela, you should start writing, because I think you and she said, no, take part in essays, take part in newspaper competitions, and that's where you begin. And I said, I don't think I can do this. She said, you try it. So I said, okay. And I tried it, and you won't believe it. Within a year, I won the first prize in a Delhi competition. I was studying in a Delhi school at the time. And I won the first prize in a government competition on the subject of how much I love animals, why I love animals. It was a long essay, really, really long essay, but I won first prize. And you know how much I got? 25 rupees. At that time, 25 rupees was a lot of money. And I thought, wow, this is it. I'm going to make lots of money on my writing and I'm going to write lots and lots. And of course, I went home and I told my parents and they said, well, that's a great start, but you'll have to carry on writing a lot more. And I said, yeah, I will. I'll carry on writing. So I took part in other competitions in the papers and I found that I was quite good at it because people were beginning to notice, the teacher was beginning to notice, and even the principal of my school said, you should keep on writing. I think maybe you should study English when you finish school. And I did. I studied English honors when I finished school and I went to college, which was in Pune. This is the place where I live right now. And I finished that. But then I got married. And when I got married, there was no time to write. I was busy looking after children and running around in the outdoors. My husband was a tea estate man. He was a tea planter. If you know anything about the tea estates, I've written about it a lot in this third book, the Anaishola Chronicle. It gives you the history of tea in the South. It tells you about how the tea bushes first came to South India and where it was planted in the Nilgiris and how eventually it became such a wonderful place and we were living in that particular paradise. Can you believe it? I was there for something like 5 years. And while I was there, we saw wild animals, elephants coming to our windows so close by to our house that it was scary for me. I thought, gosh, they're going to knock this wall down and I'm going to be like, oh, they're going to trample on me. And my husband said, nothing of the kind. They're very calm, these animals. They don't do any harm to you. They'll be okay. But you have to understand this is how nature is. And that's where I took my first lessons in the outdoors. I played tennis. I went swimming in a jungle pool. When we used to go driving at night and come back home from the club, it used to be pitch dark, no headlights other than our own car, no street lights anywhere. The ghat roads were steep and winding, and very often we would suddenly come around a corner and there was a huge herd of elephants and they'd be just standing there and looking at us and wondering, which way are we going? Are we going forwards into them or are we going to go back and reverse and wait patiently for them to go? So those are our experiences with the wild. And then I realized I loved the outdoors just too much to live in the city anymore. So when it was time for us to come away from the tea estates and our children to have school education, we came back to Pune and we bought this gorgeous, gorgeous farm. And it was at that time, which was 40 years ago in 1980, 81, it was nothing but jowar fields and rice fields. That was it. And there were some mango trees here and there. But then my husband, being the man he is, he decided, let's plant trees here. Let's allow these trees to grow in nature really nicely. And once they've grown, the birds will come and the animals will return. And that's exactly what's happened in 30 years. That's really what's happened. It's a jungle now. And people come here and they say, wow, how did you make this into a jungle so easily? And we said, no. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of hard work. But guess what? While I was in Pune, when our kids were very, very small, I had to put the kids in school somewhere. So they went to 2 schools in Pune. My son went to Vincent's and my daughter went to St. Mary's. At that time, those were the good schools of Pune. There are so many, many more now. And at that time, when they went there, I said, let me also go and teach in school. Let me see what they're doing. Let me see how they're learning. My daughter was a really mischievous one, probably like most of you. And she was very, very naughty and she'd never listen to her teachers. She was out of her chair at the drop of a hat. And the teacher would come to me and say, Mrs. Broome, your daughter, she's impossible. She doesn't sit in one place for more than 2 minutes. What do you do with her at home? I said, well, she's busy. She's quite busy. She paints. She looks after her dolls and her toys and that kind of thing. She writes essays. She was writing essays at the age of 7 and 8. She was quite good at it even then. And so it went on. And while I was there, then the principal asked me one day, since you've studied music, oh, I forgot to tell you, I studied piano for something like 12 years when I was young. And I stood first in the whole of India in my final piano exam. And after I'd finished, I got married and all that happened, and there was no time to carry on with my piano. But here, suddenly, I was asked to come back to school, teach music in school. It was like God was handing me something on a plate, and He was saying, here's your chance. Go and work with children. And I thought, how can I do that? I've not studied to be a piano teacher. I just studied to be a piano player on concerts and things. And the principal said, no, just come. You'll be happy. You'll see that you'll be happy here. So I went to school and I played for the first few days. And when I went to class after about 3 days, I noticed there was a change. The children were like jumping around. They were sort of waiting for me anxiously till I came to the class. And they came to class, bouncing into class. And they would say, Miss, what are you going to teach us today? And I would teach them crazy songs about buffaloes with horns coming down the mountain. And I would sing songs about crocodiles and goldfish and all the nature things that I could think of. And imagine different songs and then compose them myself and play them with them. So we soon had concerts and all that. And then I realized, hey, these children don't know enough about nature actually. So why don't I start camps? So I told my husband, let's start children's education camps on the farm. And then it just happened just by chance. I was working in school till 1990. And in 1990, I said, that's it. I'm stopping now. I'm going to start camps on the farm, and they're going to be environment education camps for children. And my husband said, you're crazy. How do you think you're going to handle all those kids? I said, the 20 kids is nothing, no problem for me at all. They'll come, they'll be quite happy. So he said, but what do you plan to do? I said, we'll have them in our house. We'll build a house which can accommodate all these children. So we had an upstairs floor. If you can see the floor here, can you see? That's the roof of our house. Okay, it's all wood. And these kids slept upstairs on that roof at night, and in the day we were out, and this was the view that was outside. Can you see it? That's the green that is outside, and it's that wild. So
Ma'am, which pool is
yes, pardon?
Which,
You tell me later on. Tell me after I finish. So when the kids came to us, we had 20 children, and then before we knew it, Pune and Bombay and Ahmedabad and Bangalore, Thane, oh my, Delhi, Surat, these parents from there were sending their children to us. So for 16 years, we ran environment education camps on our farm. The kids stayed with us for 4 days and 3 nights, and we drove them crazy from 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. We would chase them around the farm, and we made them learn about the trees and the plants and the birds and farming and harvesting and everything possible to do with the outdoor living. And they absolutely loved it. And when they went back after 4 days, they would jump into their parents' arms out from the bus, jump into their arms and say, Mama, Papa, I want to go back. I want to go back there. So we had children who came to us 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, till we said, will you please go somewhere else? Now we're tired of you. Now go and join some other camp and go somewhere else. But we still love them. And these children are now adults. They're grown up. They're all over the world. They're doing wonderful environment things. And why did it start? Because we said environment education is important, and our Indian kids need to learn this. They need to know that our environment here is valuable to us. Our nature and our wildlife is valuable to us. So we did it for 16 years, and that was this major message I was talking about, and my husband was talking about, and the instructors that we instructed to tell them, they were also telling them this. And when the camps got over and we were just too tired, after 16 years, we stopped. And for about 6 months, I think, 6 months, I said, peace, no children. I don't have to think about children. Hey, yay, wonderful, wonderful. I relaxed for 6 months and then I said, something is missing. I don't know what it is. Something is missing. And my husband said, you're missing the children. I know it. And sure enough, it was that. I didn't know how to do, how was I to get over this? So then I said, okay, since I can't run around after them, I'll start writing again. So when I was 50 plus, just imagine, I was 50 plus, I decided I'm going to start writing again. And that's when I wrote my first book, Flute in the Forest. And this book took me only 3 months to write, believe it or not. It just took me 3 months to write. It was a story that was in my head since I was probably about 20 or so, when I'd first gone to the tea estates and I'd understood what nature was all about. And I began to see there's so much in nature that our kids don't know. And I wanted to express all that. It was sitting in my head for so many years. And finally, I could write it. And when I was able to write it and I had finished it, there was a point in the book, somewhere like 3/4 of the way through the book, and I suddenly said, up to that point, I didn't know whether the book would ever get published. But 3/4 of the way through the book, I had written one paragraph and suddenly I knew this book is going to get published. And it did. It did, but not after 3 months. It took me a long time. After I wrote it, then I had to re-edit. You know, just like when you write an essay and you write words which are okay, but it could be better. You could write it in a better style. You could write it in a better way. Then you think, okay, I could use another word here. I could use another sentence here. Oh, this sentence is not necessary. I'll take that sentence out. That's called editing. So when you edit, I did that once, and then I put the book away. Then after 2 months, I went back to it again, and then I edited it some more, and then I waited for another 2 months, and then I edited it again. So this went on for nearly, I think about 2 years, about 2 years. And in that time, I was so excited. I said, I've written it away. I've sent it off to this publisher, sent it off to that publisher. And they all wrote back and said, thank you so much. It's a nice story, but it doesn't fit our priorities right now, blah, blah, blah. Very, very polite language. They use very polite language, but they never tell you, sorry, doesn't suit us. But why did they not say that? Because they thought, oops, what's happened here? Nima? Aranya?
Yes, ma'am, you are visible and audible.
Okay, but I can't see anything out here.
Okay, ma'am, you click the blue zoom button on your screen below on the...
Below on the, it's a little...
Yes. On the bottom line, you will see the blue zoom button. You click there and you will see everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I have a very, very bad signal here sometimes. So then it just goes off and I'm so used to it, but then I'm completely blank when that happens.
Ma'am, you are perfectly audible and we are just into your story.
Oh, thank you. So are the kids enthralled too? Are the children listening?
Yes.
Children, you can show thumbs up.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
ma'am. We are enjoying it.
Yes, ma'am. We are enjoying a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you go through such a big process?
Yes, ma'am.
I will explain all that. I nearly finished my telling of my journey story, and then after that I'll get back to that. So when I finished this first book and then eventually edited 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I'm quite a perfectionist. So I decided, okay, I think I've got it now. So then I sent it off to Penguin, and Penguin looked at it, and believe it or not, that was my dream. When I was 14 years old, I dreamt that one day I'm going to get a book published by Penguin. And here, they replied, they phoned me up, in fact. They phoned me up and said, Leela, we like your book. we want to publish it. I almost jumped out of my chair and started dancing around like a lunatic and said, yay, 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 fantastic, Ma, see, look, everybody, everyone, look, they said, good book. It's been a dream since I was 14. Finally, it was done. So that was my first book, and it came out in December 2010. Okay, so that was quite a long time after the book had been written. But in the meanwhile, I had already started on other books. I had started writing Red Kite Adventure because my daughter was married and she'd had her first little child, and he was a boy. And this first book was for my eldest granddaughter, Aranya, whose laptop this is. And this one is now has been dedicated to my second and my third grandchildren. They are Aslan and Amara Khan, and they are Muslim children. They've got a Muslim father and a mother who is a Hindu, but they've been brought up very, very open-minded and very thoughtful of other communities, because we believe in those things, and we wanted the children also to grow up in that way. And luckily, their parents also feel the same. So this one was an adventure story, and I wanted to write it for, especially for on a boy angle, because the first one is more sort of from a girl's point of view, but this one was for more from a boy's point of view. And I thought, what better idea than have a story about two boys who have a scary kind of jumpy kind of adventure. And so I made this story about these two kids who meet each other and they look identical to each other, and they share an adventure which is really jumpy. It really makes you jump. And you, in fact, once you start on the book, you can't leave the book till you're finished. I guarantee this, because every chapter sort of leads on, oh my God, now what's happening? I've got to get to the next chapter. Then when you finish that chapter, you think, oh, good heavens, now, come on, now I've got to read the next chapter. And so it goes on till you finally come to the end of the book and you say, oh, thank God Mrs. B's finished the story. For heaven's sake, it just goes on and on and on, keeps us on our toes. But really, that was it. And then when I finished that one, I had a bit of a time gap, and then I thought, now let me get back to nature, because nature is my main subject. I love nature a lot, and I wanted the children to experience that. Sorry.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I thought, what then write about the tea estate?
And why don't you have some water? Please have some water.
It's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. So, so then I decided I would write about nature in the form of the tea estate stories. So I wrote that story for slightly older children, but those who perhaps are interested in adventure, in mystery, in nature, and some of history also. So I put all of these ingredients into this story. By this time, this is my third story, I was getting to be quite, I don't know how to say it, where's the word, it's not coming to me, quite thorough in how I wanted the story to go. So I wrote it in sort of in point form, and then I went chapter wise, and then when I finished all of those, then I fleshed out my story thoroughly, and that's how eventually it became this book. And towards the end of the book, suddenly it struck me, this is how it should end. Until that time, it was all a mystery, even to me. It was like words were coming into my head and I was writing them down, but I couldn't figure out what ending would be the best ending. And that took me a little bit of time. So that was that one. And finally, Earthquake Boy, which came out last year, was a story about a boy who was found after the Bhuj earthquake. Most of you were not born. In fact, nobody was born. None of you were born, I think, at that time. It was in 2001. And there was this terrible, terrible earthquake in Bhuj and Gujarat, and it flattened a whole lot of buildings there, and a whole lot of children and adults and parents and grandparents. There was a major, major accidents and buildings falling down and crushing people, and a lot of tragedy. And there was, what happened afterwards was that the newspapers were writing about how there were so many families who had lost their children, and the children had been buried under the buildings and never found again. And there were the vice versa. There were so many children whose parents had gone missing and never to be found again. So I read these things in the newspaper, and I was very, very upset. And I thought, somebody needs to write about something like this, but it mustn't be sad, because okay, a bit of sadness is fine because life is like that. Nobody in life has a life which is completely all happy. That's ridiculous. You have sadness, you have happiness, you have this and you have that. That's life. So I wanted that to be some of this, but I also wanted all my stories to end off positive, because I think positivity is very important to keep us going and to make us strong, and to make us get through all the obstacles that we might face in life in the future, right now, in the present, in the immediate future, and later, many, many years down the line. If you're positive, you get through everything. So I wanted those messages also to go out. And this story gets that across really, really well, because it's a story about a little boy who is found after this earthquake, 5 days after the earthquake. It was miraculous that he was actually alive. And then he was rushed to Ahmedabad hospital, and he was operated. His head was badly injured, and they were wondering whether he would survive, but he did. But when he recovers and he's lying in bed, and the doctors come and ask him, "So what's your name?" And he can't remember anything, nothing. He's forgotten who he is. He's got no memory. He has no idea of who he is. And he's absolutely, it's called amnesia. So it's a medical condition. You actually lose your memory completely, but it lasts usually for a short time. It happens when you're very, very traumatized by something. And in his case, it was. So when this happens, and the doctors are all horrified, but he's physically fit after a little while. And then they all decide, the doctors outside his room, but they're talking there, and he hears them talking, and they say, if he's physically fine and he doesn't know who he is, and his parents, nobody has come, not a single relative has come to claim him, we'll have to put him in an orphanage. And he thinks, orphanage? Oh God, what's that? Sounded like some dungeon, something terrible, some prison or something. So he just packs his tiny little backpack, tiny small little thing he has, and a book and a couple of other things which belonged to him from when they found him under that building. And he runs away, and he runs onto the train station and he has no clue where he's going, but the train goes to Bombay. And there he lands up, and now it's like from the frying pan into the fire, because he's never seen Bombay before. He has no clue where he is, and he has to learn 3 things all in the space of a few hours. He has to find shelter, he has to find food, and he has to have water. And he has to be somewhere where he's safe. Where? So he has to use his brain really, really quickly. And that's where you, as the reader, help him. You think for him, and you begin to understand the way his mind is working. Survival. Wonderful ideas for children to learn. Survival in the wild, survival in the outdoors, survival in the cities, survival against all odds, survival in school. Lots of these different issues come up all through life. And this is one of the issues that you are going to have to face. And this little boy faces them too. And you, as a reader, are going to see that he's called Binna, by the way, because he has no name. So the nurses call him Be-Naam, without name. And Be-Naam gets shortened to Binna. So Binna finds very soon that, look, I have to earn something, otherwise I can't eat, because how can I pay for my food? Then I have to find a place to stay. I have to be able to have a bath, because he was a very clean little boy. And he had no clothes except for just another set of pajamas which he'd taken from the hospital, some shirt or something, and some cap or some funny little things like that, plus his book from long, long ago. So anyway, So he has these few little possessions, and with those few little possessions, he begins to make a life for himself out on the streets of Bombay. He meets the homeless. He meets a horrible Gunda man who's ready to snatch him away, wants to kidnap him, in fact, when he realizes, this fellow was on his own, he's not with anybody, I think I can take him away. But this boy is much too clever for him. And so slowly, you as a reader, I won't tell you the whole story because then it's all out. Yeah, you may know about it. Some of you have read the book, so then you would have found out what the end is. Did you find it exciting? Who is this little child who's just spoken to me?
That was Yana. I have seen your video in the YouTube for
Ah,
the big boy.
video.
He even met some
Even
babies.
I have seen. You were reading earthquake book.
Okay,
also seen Make Some Friends.
wonderful. It's
Like
so
the
good to
man
hear
who
your
tells
voices.
lots of stories.
Tiny little kiddie voices. I haven't heard kiddie voices for some time. Except even my grandchildren, they live in Pune, but they're right the other end of Pune. So I don't see them very often. I only talk to them once in a while on the phone when we can get through because the phones are not working properly. So sometimes we feel like we're sitting on a desert island. We're so far away, but actually we're not. We're all in that same boat right now, no? None of us can move out. We all have to stay at home. We all have to wear masks. Luckily, one of the advantages of this online thing, we don't have to wear those horrible masks. Think about it. Wonderful, isn't it? Okay, so I think I finished.
They make me joke.
Almost always, whenever I get a new book or my mother and father bring me a new book, I just say, please don't disturb me, and I quickly read the book. My highest record is reading a 500-page book in just 2 days.
But you read the whole thing?
Yes.
You read the whole thing?
Yes, I'm so interested in reading.
Oh, wow. You don't skip the words?
No, I don't even skip the words or pages.
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic.
95 pages book in 1.5 days.
Wow, that's fantastic. I don't know your name.
Books in just 2 hours.
My record of reading is reading a more than 600-page book in 2 days.
Wonderful. So
Ma'am,
Arnav has
I
got
read a 80-page book in 1 day.
I can read 995 pages book in 1.5 days.
That's really good. You people are good readers, and that means is someone encouraging you to read?
And whenever I get
encouraging?
just a thin book, I can read it in less than a minute. When I
That's
get a
very
thin
good,
book,
Arnav. That's fantastic. Arnav, listen. Is who tells you what books to read? Do you pick your own books, or does your mother pick for you, or
I
does
pick my own books.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what sort of books do you like? You know what a genre is? You like mystery, adventure, humor, history. What?
I like mystery and adventure.
Ma'am, I read the whole Harry Potter set of books in less than 3 months.
Okay.
Read the full Harry Potter series in a bit more than a week.
How old are you?
9.
Yes, my grandson also read it at about 8 years of age. He just went through the books like really, really fast. I asked him, are you reading some abridged version? Some smaller, précis type version? He said, no, Mom, I'm reading the whole thing. What do you think? I'm not going to read those little itty bitty books. I want to read the whole thing. So he reads a lot. He's read all my books. He's a strong critic of all my books, I have to say, huh?
I've read 3.
And even if
this is not right, that's not, you should run it like that. Should run it
I
like
get
that.
one of your books, I could just finish it in less than a minute.
My books?
Yes.
You'd
read all your books.
I
want to read all your books, ma'am.
I doubt it. Even if I knew the books by heart, I wouldn't be able to read it in less than a minute. That's impossible. You'd have to be better than Superman. Even Superman can't do that. So that's not possible.
If I
But
can read
I want to read all your books, ma'am.
books in 1 year.
Yes,
Ma'am,
that's wonderful.
I can read 2 Sagamukti books in an hour.
So, so children, you can ask questions if you have. Okay.
So I need to have you go
One of my thickest book which I have read is of Jeremy Stilton.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Is this thick?
Okay. All right. Hold on. Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
Just one minute.
can I ask a question?
Talking?
Hold on. Hold on, beta. Just a minute. Hold
Can I
on.
ask
Yeah.
the child who's talking?
Yeah. Go ahead. Who is talking now?
Ma'am,
And the
Ma'am, I have a question. I saw your video on YouTube about your book summary of the Earthquake Boy, and at the end you told about the idea of orienteering, and I would like to ask you where you got that idea.
Oh, now that has got to do with my camping days, children. When we had our camps here for 16 years, when the kids were here, we used to play different kinds of, we did different activities with them. So one of these activities was reading a map if you're outside in a strange place. How do you get
Ma'am, I've
from
seen
A
the
to
video.
B? 1 minute, let me finish. So if you went from A to B, how would you get from A to B with a map, with a piece of paper which tells road directions and all of that? I think I still have it here somewhere. Here it is. Here. This is the one you're talking about, right? So I had drawn pictures like this, which tell you all the different signs you would see in a geography map book, right? So you'd know what a canal looks like, what a brick wall looks like, what the lake looks like, and a tree, and a hospital, and so on. So once you know these, then you follow the map which has only these markings on it, and then you know how to get from A to B. And so that's how I wanted to show the children how you can make your own maps. And you can do this in school. You can make maps of the trees in your compound. You can make maps of even of your class. You can even make a map of your class with a door on one side and a window on one side and a few little clues on the side with an index, and then you build your orienting map like that, orienteering map that way. It's a wonderful idea for when you're traveling out and when you're outdoors in an open space, you have a picnic, you have a birthday party, and you take your friends for a picnic. Don't have them in the house and don't take them to a hotel and McDonald's and whatever. That's rubbish. Go outside and have a wonderful time in the outdoors and enjoy nature. But at the same time, you can sort out a treasure map there. You can have a treasure there hidden in all these different places. Then you give your party friends each a map, or you put them two together and give them each a map and say, this is your clue. You have to go from A to B, from B to C, C to D, and so on, so on, so on. And finally pick up all those clues, write it down on this piece of paper and bring it to me. And then the first person who comes back is the one who wins the treasure. And we used to play this game regularly. We used to call it treasure hunt. And it was actually what they were doing was learning how to read maps. They didn't know that. Half our activities were like that. They would do bird watching that way. We would talk about where the birds live, what do they eat, why do they stay in outdoor places where it's quiet and green, and what are the foods that they eat? Do they eat seeds? Do they eat insects? Do they eat the leaves? What kind of nests do they have? All these things would come into play. And I try to put all these ideas in tiny, tiny little bits in all the books that I've written so far. Any more questions? Who has another question?
Grade 4, 5.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, I have a question.
ma'am, that is very amazing.
Okay, so
Children,
what
please raise hands.
raise your hand.
Raise your hand, beta.
Yes, Swanik, you may unmute and put up your question, please.
Yeah, and Tarlin ma'am, can you take care of that? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Tarlin ma'am and Dara ma'am,
Hello,
both can
my
volunteer.
name is Swanik. I have recently started writing stories, and I have wrote 7 stories.
So
Wow.
till the next month, I'm trying to write a book for small children about at least 20 or 50 stories.
50?
So what suggestion you would
Stories.
like to give me?
What?
50 or 20?
I didn't get your
So what
question. What was it?
suggestion would you like to give?
What station? What is?
Ma'am, he's trying to say that if you would like to give him some suggestions that he's trying his first time venture writing stories and he's making short stories about 15 to 20 different stories and situation. So
Okay.
he's asking for your guidance.
Okay. Uh, uh, can you tell me one of the stories in a nutshell? Quickly. Quickly.
Oh, wait, I
Yeah.
open them.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
I will
summarize it quickly, Swanik.
Yeah. Summarize it very fast. Okay. In 10 sentences.
Okay, so I will tell my three witches, the wizard and the three witches story. Once upon a time, there used to live a wizard named Tony. He used to make very magic potions and spells. He lived named Magic Kingdom, and in his neighborhood kingdom, which is the kingdom of spells, there used to live three witches.
Okay.
The three witches were very jealous of him because he had many powers. So one day they planned to steal his potions and
Okay.
spells.
Okay.
They
Okay.
went to
Yeah,
his house.
Swanik, don't give away the surprise end, okay?
Sonic, you can stop now. I have some ideas. So your ideas, I mean, your stories, are they a lot about imaginary things like witches and wizards and fairies and that kind of stuff? Very good. Very interesting.
Yes.
Yes. So you're heading towards sci-fi. That means you're heading towards fantasy and that kind of thing, which is interesting. Uh, one hint I could give you would be that you make your stories. You have your sci-fi characters, you have your fantasy characters, but base them in actual fact. That means they're living on the earth like we are, and then they do strange things. They do peculiar things like fly off suddenly, or they produce wings from just like that, and then they can fly off, or they have an extra pair of eyes in the back of their head. So you can name it. You have an imagination. You can do this yourself, I'm sure. So but you base them in reality. That means on the earth, in their homes, and then they have these special talents. Like Superman, when he was very young, he was just a normal boy, and nobody knew that he was Superman until he suddenly decided, okay, I've got this power. I can see, I have X-ray eyes or whatever it was that he had. Huh? And so the same way, if your characters have these kind of little quirks, but they also have a base in nature, it makes for very interesting stories because it's more believable. Okay, it's more acceptable, more believable. But carry on, good luck, and I'm sure you'll do fine. Keep practicing, read a lot. You will improve with every story you tell.
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
Swanik, don't
Yes,
yes, you're
thank you,
welcome.
ma'am.
I think Yana too has a question.
Yes, Sonic, so take this in your head that always have the fantasy around the world, but try to make some real life connection as ma'am has suggested.
Yes,
I was just
yes.
trying to summarize the, yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Very good. Excellent. Any other questions? Actually, I had a few points that I wanted to tell you people about, which might help you with your creative writing and your work as your even doing your ordinary work writing at home, even for those who don't necessarily want to write books. Okay. Many of you may be coming from homes which are where you speak Hindi or Marathi at home. Am I right? Or do you all speak English at home? What is it?
Hindi or Marathi? Hindi.
Hindi or Marathi?
I'm Gujarati.
You are lucky.
Ma'am, Marathi.
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 All right, all
Marathi.
right.
Marathi.
Hindi or
And
Marathi.
I'm Gujarati.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, children, that summarizes it.
Excellent. So,
Ma'am, Gujarati.
yes, very good. I can
one
see
of
that
the
you're
thing-
all speaking
one
one
of
of
the
the
books.
languages first
One
at
of the
home. That's your first language you're speaking at home. And then you're learning English because you're learning it in school and you're pretty good at it. You're reading quite a lot. But that's wonderful. So my advice to you is don't be ashamed that you're speaking those languages at home. Be proud of them because those languages are your base. That's where you have originated from. You have that history behind you, and that history is valuable to you. Don't let it go. Okay? For me, I was brought up with English, and you won't believe it. I'm maybe good at English. I may have studied German in school and college. Yes, okay, that's fine. I had a mother who was Dutch, so I learned Dutch when I was a kid. I went to England. I did all of those things. But now, when I want to speak Hindi, I can't speak it properly because I never learned it at home. I can't speak Marathi properly because I never spoke it at home properly. My father was always out on the border shooting and firing guns. He was in the army. So he was busy firing his guns across the border and doing all those things. So very often we were only with my mother who could speak English or Dutch. So we never learned that, but you have that advantage. All of you children have that advantage. Don't let it go. Because what happens is when you get older, because you have learned those languages in your childhood, you will always be strong in those languages. And English, because you learned it in school, you will be strong with that too. And that will eventually become a strong point for you, whatever you might study later on, whatever you might do later on, it will be an advantage for you. So don't let it go. Okay, that's one point. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was to read as much as you can. Have you got a librarian in school? Do you have a librarian?
Ma'am, currently in online situation, we have the online account for all the students through Scholastic, and they teachers assign them books, biographies, different genre, and they read it and they give us a review in library class. So right now we don't have dedicated librarian, but class teachers are being their librarian online.
Okay, so I would suggest that there are excellent librarians now, and they give you wonderful suggestions because they read a lot. They read much more than you would be able to in a week. They would probably read 2 or 3 books per week, and they're the ones for the kind of books you are interested in. For instance, Swanik likes fantasy, then he should be asking the librarian, Miss, do you know any books on fantasy? I would like to read those. Somebody else who likes nature will say, Miss, I would love to can I read a book on something to do with the forest or something to do with nature or birds? And your librarian will say, yeah, sure. See, there's this one and that one and that one. You can read those. So you can always ask for books from your librarian, and those are the ladies or the men who will be able to guide you the best way possible to choose the best books for you to read. Okay, so don't be put off when you go to a bookshop. Eventually you'll be going to bookshops and mommy or daddy says, this is the book to get, that's the book to get. No, 1 minute. Wait, tell mommy, I like this kind of story. I like that kind of story. Let's ask the shopkeeper. Will he know? He may know. If he doesn't, ask your librarian. Your librarian will know. This one is the book you should get. That one is the book to get. Those are the books that deal with the subjects you like. I like nature, but some other people hate nature. They say, hey, yuck. I like to have adventure, or I like mystery, or thrillers, murder stories. Okay, fine. The librarian knows which ones are the books that tell you this story, that kind of story. So ask your librarians and then make your little notes. So when next time you go to the bookshops, you take that little notebook along. Or you can order them online. You can order them through Amazon. You can order them through Flipkart. There are many, many bookstores to get the books from now. Okay. Then I
Ma'am,
want to,
I would like to add a little thing here that we are
yeah.
encouraging them to have a look at the blurb to give them a little idea about if they can read this story or not. So it's for a little point, like as we don't have a librarian, so we find a way to encourage them. So currently we're just advising them to have a look at the blurb and get the idea whether we want to read the story or not.
Okay. Acha. That's also a good idea. But the blurb will also be, in some ways, it may give you, it may not give you the whole genre of the book. And for
Yes,
that,
true.
the people who have actually read the book would be the best. So from that point of view, yes, but I think I agree with you also. It's also a good idea. Also a good idea. All my books have blurbs too.
Blurbs or prologues,
Yeah.
both
Very
have.
often the blurbs are written by the authors themselves, and
Yes.
then they vary it a little bit and bring out something more in this. This blurb here seems to be really long. I don't know why. I would just write 4 sentences and 5 sentences, and that's enough, because that's all we can read. If we want to see 10 books at the same time, and mummy says only half an hour, only half an hour you've got in the bookshop. Now get on with it. Get the book fast. And then you go and then you see the book with such a big blurb. You're going to say, no, not this one. I think I'll go for another one. So you have
Yes.
to, you have to be
Yeah.
wise. Then I wanted to tell you one other thing. About children who may want to write an essays and thinking about how to improve your English. Um, for me, as a kid, when I was younger, my teacher often told me the best way to improve your writing is always to just write your essays every day, an essay every day. Now, there are so many ways you can write an essay. One is you get the teacher to give you the title, and then you make your own essay up. And it can be, your teacher can tell you, oh, write 10 lines or write 20 lines, and that's enough. But you can go one step further. You see a picture, you see a National Geographic, you see a magazine, a newspaper with a picture on the top. What does that picture tell you? What does it describe? Can you put it into words? If you had, supposing you had weak eyes, but you wanted to describe that picture, can you write that? For that person who has weak eyes, can you write it down? In this picture, I see so and so. Are you going to say, in this picture, I see a man looking at a little puppy dog and so and so. And then I see a car coming from the other, so boring. So let's write it a little bit more interesting. Okay. In this picture, you can start with that. In the picture that I have in front of me, I see a road with traffic, lots of traffic. And there's a tiny little, cute little puppy on one side, but there's a man approaching from the other side. And then you can go on and on and on and add to it. And you got your 10 lines. Very soon you have your 10-line story, your little essay. So that can be one way of writing. The other way that I did, which I was when I was very young, was, and it really worked for me, was you take any paragraph from anywhere, even from a book. Take a paragraph, and in that paragraph you will find words which you think, I don't really need this word here. I think this word can go. Or that sentence, you don't really need that sentence. So you writing, making it shorter, narrower, smaller, contracted. So you can contract these sentences and make them into smaller sentences, clean sentences, no commas even, full stops at the end. That's it. And another one with, say, 6 words, 7 words, 10 words, that's it. And you have 10 sentences like that, and it's done. These are the simple little things I started with when I was quite young, and it really worked for me because it makes your thinking very clear. It makes your thinking really clear, and you understand, okay, so that's That's what this writer wanted to say. Why is he or she written such a long, big sentence about all this? It's not necessary. You can write it in smaller, less words. It works better. Because when you're reading fast, and all of you children are reading very fast now and looking at the TV and you see pictures, and after 5 minutes you want to change the screen, you want to scroll again, you want to scroll again. So you have to pay attention for the 5 minutes, then you're looking on something else. So 5 minutes of attention is all you can spend on that one paragraph. Get it right in that one paragraph. Huh? It's a wonderful lesson actually for you. And then dictionaries. A dictionary used to be my favorite little book when I was young too. Just any day and every day, pick up the dictionary and look up your book and see, oh, see, this is a strange word. I never heard this word before. How do you pronounce it? What does it mean? Strange words will come out of that dictionary and you will have learned 10 new words in the space of 10 days. So think how your vocabulary will improve in 1 month. 30 words per month. Think about it.
Yes, ma'am. We even thank you for even supporting our process, because being in school, we always encourage them to have a look at dictionary. Even we have in Cambridge syllabus, we have activities which is defined for them to have a look at dictionary and then give the answers. So thank you so much. Like now, after listening to you, they'll definitely follow that. And we do vocabulary list sharing regularly by teachers as well. So yes, as many words we can learn in a month is amazing. It's like, it's enriching. Thank you.
Yes. Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you very much for the lovely session. Ma'am, I would like Avyuk to Avyuk to come and say a thank note. And before that, if anyone is having any other question, one last question. Dara ma'am or Tarli ma'am? Okay, Tarli ma'am wants to ask. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a small question by me. Like how you mentioned the first book, what you wrote, you had to edit it and it took quite long. So that tells us how to evaluate yourself, right? So little bit of a tip or suggestion that how do we edit when we write something. So our children are writing short stories and some of them are writing book series. So some part, like for edit, they always think of editing the spelling or the grammar. Is there more to it?
Of course, there's a lot more to it.
Yes.
First of all, I think what's most important is I write chapter books. So for me, a chapter book is an idea, an action idea, perhaps, or a thought idea. Now, how do I get that across? If I say a paragraph on, say, this little girl and the boy and the girl were walking in the forest and it was rather dark and it was looking a bit spooky. See, I want to write about something which they're going to come across, which is going to be a shock for them. So how do I write about it? And I have come to this part where I've described the forest. I've said everything about the pros and cons and the birds and the this and that. Everything has been written, but I haven't written enough about, say, the thoughts which are working in the minds of the boy and the girl. And now I have written that also, and it's come to the second paragraph. Now I've come to the third paragraph, and now we're approaching that dangerous bit, and where they're going to come into some dangerous area. And okay, so they have approached this dangerous area. I've written about that too. And then something else happens, and then I repeat by mistake. I'm repeating something about the forest all over again. That bit that I've rewritten again, is unnecessary. It's not necessary at all because you've written about it already once before. You don't need to bring it up again. So that part is what you have to delete. That's editing. That is editing. not just the grammar. Of course, the grammar is important. The sentences are important. The spellings are important. All this is also part of editing. But what the publishers are looking for all the time is the whole picture. It's like a painting. If you have a painting and um, it's a painting of the sea, and there's a boat, a ship on that sea, and the ship is sailing peacefully, but you can see a wave coming from the side and it's looking like it's a dangerous wave. Okay, so now you've drawn that, but where's the danger? You want to show that danger. So maybe a shark fin would add to it, or maybe 3 or 4 shark fins. What would be better, 1 or 3 or 4? I would say 1, because one big shark fin is better than 3 or 4 because it's more scary. You wonder where is it coming from? Where suddenly one shark? So you'd write one, you'd paint 1. Or it could be a pirate ship coming from the other side who's going to attack, and it's getting dark, but you can't really see, is it coming this way or is it going that way? So which you have to describe, you have to paint that in properly. You have to be able to describe that in words. For an artist, it's easy, you'd paint it. But for a writer, you have to be able to describe it in words. And words sometimes don't come to you that easily. So you have to think, how do I get that image across, but not repeat myself? That's also editing. Publishers are looking for repeat words. Supposing you say the word very. In my case, it was always this word very in the beginning. Now I don't do it at all anymore. But very was a word I used very often. See, I've even said it just now. That word is very common. We say it all the time. But when you write, it shouldn't be there so much more than maybe once in a page. So avoid it. Avoid it as much as possible. There are many words you can use in place of very. Why do we have to use that word?
So to avoid collocations is a good key.
Yeah. And of course, grammar, one thing in India we're very good at is describing everything with lots of flowery words, plenty of words which end with ly, adverbs.
Yeah.
They end with ly. And there's like lovely and beautifully and this thing and some other one, it's all with ly at the end. One of them per paragraph is enough. They will not let you put in more than one. And the foreign publishers will take one glance at your page. If you have more than one, sometimes even one, they'll say, sorry, we don't want the page. We don't want the MS. They're that strict. So you have to be very, very careful. We're very good at flowery language in this country because we express with our hands a lot. We have very expressive faces, but for them, they don't show much expression on their face, but they write beautifully. So that's the difference.
That's
Editing.
a very good insight.
I think that's really.
Yeah,
Any
our
other?
children are actually writing, and the editing part will definitely help them. A very
Yeah.
good insight, like what the
Yeah.
publishers actually want.
Yes, yes, it's important. It's important. And today I'm part of an association which has nearly 200 Indian writers. Of these writers, there are only a handful that children really know about because they've been publicizing a lot, or they've been publicized by the scholastics and by Penguin and by whatever, because they have sold their books. They've managed to sell their books for whatever the reasons might be. Other people don't get so well known, and then they remain in the background. But there are 200 writers in India all writing for children now. They're all writing for children. And I've been on the same harangue for the last, ever since I've started writing, that we really need to talk about Indian writers. Why are we reading about the Statue of Liberty and the Americans and what they're doing out there and what the British are doing and blah, blah, everywhere else? India, we have so many stories here. Why are we writing about children with names like Tina and Diana and Charles and all of these kind of names, when actually we have beautiful names in India, we have beautiful stories here, and we have lots and lots of stories on our doorstep happening in the railway station, on the bus stop, in the planes, at the terminals, on the street, in the schools, wherever you go, the stories are there, and we have them in India. But we're writing. Lots of Indian writers are writing now, and we need to expose them more. And I think one of the responsibilities of teachers of schools now is to expose these writers to the children in the schools that they are teaching in. It's important because they're actually promoting very, very good work. There's some very good work out there which children need to be exposed to, and parents also should be knowing about. If you go to the bookstores, you won't find many of those books because let's be truthful about it. The publishers abroad pay so much more for every book that India prints and sells in the bookstores itself. They'll get much higher commissions. So for the Indian books, by comparison, commissions are much less for the bookseller. So who are they going to promote? They are going to promote Harry Potter and Roald Dahl and all of these books first, unfortunately. And we will learn slowly how to face the fury and sort these things out in time to come. It's happening. The writers in India are really standing up now for themselves and saying, no, we have to be exposed. We have to know. Children must know about us and know about our work. After all, we are the ones who are writing about India. What's the point of learning about? We know by comparison to other writers, to other children anywhere else, Indian children are much more exposed to foreign stuff than, say, American kids. American kids don't know the first thing about Indian history. They don't even know who's Gandhi. They don't know anything about these people. And we know so much about the history from not just America, Australia, England, Europe, everywhere. So we really need to expose our own kids to that. That's my little bugbear.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, it's a very good insight. I remember being a child, I read so much of Indian authors. And now
Yeah.
suddenly the trend has changed, maybe because of the currency conversation, because
Yes.
they have to spend less, but eventually it's more for the Indian booksellers. So, I mean,
Yes.
whoever is publishing the books or selling it. So, I think that might be the side for us being
Ma'am, and
educated.
yeah, and ma'am, with your help, we can meet some more authors, Indian authors. You can connect them with us, like you can connect us with them, and we will be definitely, we will be happy to invite them, and they can come and encourage our children the way you did today. It was wonderful experience, and I'm very sure teachers and all children must have learned many nice techniques. They must be now encouraged to pick up their pens and write, isn't it? And
I
I
hope
will
so.
now.
I see Arnav stands on one side. I can see Arnav Khedkar listening avidly to what I'm saying, and for all of you. The others, I haven't seen too many of their faces. I would have loved to see their faces, not my own. I would have loved to have seen their faces, but then I guess they wouldn't have seen me, I suppose. I don't know how this works, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
there is a speaker view, and there, if you
Can have the gallery view
then
where you can
gallery
see
view,
all of them together.
you will
I
Okay.
think
be
it will be on the right corner on the top.
gallery
Oh,
view. You can see.
View
Then
gallery.
click
written.
on that.
Just have to click gallery here.
Okay. Arey, I missed that. I missed that. No, I've just seen that. Oh, just now.
Okay, children,
Oh,
you
now
can
I
wave,
see that.
ma'am. You can all wave, ma'am.
Yeah, you can all wave to me. You can all wave to me. Hi, Rishika, Anaya, Ria, Asta, Tarilin, Viraj, Navya, Arnav, Swara, Shravai. My God, what difficult names you people have got. Avyut, Arush, Aaron, Aaron, Vaishnavi, Soumitra and Mehak. My gosh, so many of you. And there are more?
You can change the page as well. If you
Yeah,
click
you can scroll, you can see the
Yeah.
arrows. You can click and you can
Yeah.
page.
I'll just take
more
a picture.
faces on the next page.
I'll take a picture just now before you go off. Let me see if I can do it. What is happening now? Where is that thing?
Ma'am, we can send you the screenshot. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Do that.
Everyone
Send-
can give a smile quickly.
That's lovely. Very nice. I hope you enjoyed it, children. I'd love to come and talk to you sometime when we actually have the thing and we can come to school. It would be lovely to meet you all.
Yes. We'll be happy to, have in our school.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Send me that, please,
Sure,
on
definitely. I have taken two.
Yes,
I'll
and
take-
now I'll call Avyukt.
Yeah.
Avyukt, you can unmute yourself
Yes, sir.
and yeah. Can thank.
Hello all, good morning. Respected Leela ma'am, we are honored to have you here. We all were very happy and excited to meet you. Thank you so much ma'am for taking out your valuable time and spending your time with us. In the beginning, we were a little comfortable by sharing your experiences and events of your life. Your presence on this day will be a memory we will always treasure. Thanks once more again, ma'am. Now, I can say, my friends, proudly that I met author of this book.
Wow, you got the book. You got the book. You have the book. Wonderful. Did you like it, Avyuk? You read it?
No,
Oh, Ade, get the book now. Read it. You have the book now. Read it. And tell me, send me a review. I'll put it on the blog. Have you seen my blog? Have
No,
you seen my blog? Ade, ask your teacher to show you the blog, okay? And read the blog. Since you're all online and I know your mommy must be saying, for heaven's sake, not any more online. But when you get time, if you do, then Flute in the Forest, that's the name of the blog, fluteintheforest.blogspot.com. Okay,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can read it and then you will get some idea of what's been written there. And please send me your review, all of your reviews. I'd love to have all of your reviews for the books that you have read. Okay, that would be lovely.
I also wish I could have. I would have this book signed by you.
Wow.
It would be lovely, but how to do that online? I can send you my finger just now on your nose. I'm touching your nose on my picture. That's it. That's all I can do right now. Someday I'll come there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. We'll be waiting for that. So children, you all can unmute if you want, and you can play.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
I would very much like to read all your books, but I just can't get it now.
Ma'am,
I
for
have a
taking the
question.
screenshot, you can press
Ma'am, I
Yeah.
can't get your books which you have written.
Ma'am, for the
Maybe.
Ma'am, you
I can't get it.
ma'am, you can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself.
Ma'am, you are mute.
Children, one at a time, please. If
I
you're
can't
short,
get Ma'am Leela's
Okay,
book.
now
take turns to talk, please.
can you hear me now?
Ma'am, I
ma'am,
can't get
how do you?
Ma'am Leela's books.
Huh?
Arnav, you can get it on Amazon or any of the online books.
You can get them,
Ma'am,
anywhere. They're
It's
all,
Okay, I'll try.
all of them are available on Amazon, Flipkart. If you're all
Where
in
do I share the review?
Delhi,
I'll
or
share the link for you, Arnav.
if you,
Okay, ma'am.
where is the school located? Is it on
Hinjawadi.
outside? Hmm?
Yes,
Hinjawadi
Hinjawadi,
side.
ma'am. Hinjawadi.
Hinjawadi?
Yeah.
Are it then Pagdandi? Do you know Pagdandi?
yes, ma'am, I've heard about this area.
Yes, they have my books. They have the books.
Okay.
Right,
So you
right.
can get them from there and they will send the books to you. You can order them from there, they'll send the books.
Okay, I
Okay.
think I can get them from Amazon also.
I have a question. How do you progress the book? I mean, who illustrates the book? I mean,
I didn't get that. Say that again.
who illustrates the book?
Who?
Illustrates the book.
Illustration.
You see, that's another thing with the publishers. When I wanted to illustrate my book, the publisher said, no, we have our own illustrators, so you don't need to do it, please. We've got our own and we'll get it done. And all they need to do is to just have the illustrator do this cover. And these illustrators are special people because they have to make it this way, right? It has to be open, completely open when they do it. Otherwise, it's not, how can you say it? It doesn't look complete. See? Like this. You get it? That's how. And so I don't have that kind of, I'm not an artist really, so I wouldn't know that, but they do. And so they put it together. And for them it's very simple, but what they do, they're very polite. The penguin is extremely polite and very good with me. So they always write and say, okay, now we've got 3 or 4 different illustrations, choose which one you'd like. And then they send it to me. I chose which one. That's how it was.
Ma'am,
Okay, one last question and then I stop. One last question.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah. Who is the person who is asking? Let me see. Who is the person? Ishita.
What is your advice to children to preserve environment and take care of nature?
What a serious question that is. You like nature? Do you like nature? Yes. So do you have a garden?
Yes.
You have a garden outside your house, or do you live in a flat?
I have a garden nearby.
Okay, so if you have a garden, you can reserve one tiny little portion of it and tell your dad and your mom that you want to make this little portion of your garden go back to nature. It's called going back to nature. And you just put a little boundary on it and let anything that's growing in there grow. You don't cut it, you don't prune it, you just leave it be. And it's almost like conservation. And that's your first lesson in conservation. And you'll see in a while, maybe some little trees will grow there, some tiny little sprouts will come. So you can observe that and learn a lot of different things from there. The birds will come in there and they'll drop their droppings and other seeds will grow from those droppings. Other birds will come and then there'll be creepy crawlies and other little things will turn up. And that's how this farm started out like that, because we had only those jowar and rice fields, I told you. And now it's just a jungle because of all the trees. We just left them to come up on their own. We didn't allow anyone to come inside here. And then everything started growing on its own, bit by bit by bit.
Name this
That's
plant
how it
as minty.
you can personally stop using plastic. That's one of the biggest bugbears of this country. We're using too much plastic. Why do you have to do it? There are shops now. Tell mommy about it. There are shops where you can go, you take your own bottles. They'll fill up the bottles with oil, specially for cooking, and you take your own bags and they will fill it with special groceries for you. So there's very little plastic that you're using. That's the way to start.
Ma'am, I have named this plant as minty. This is my friend.
You've named it what?
Minty.
That's interesting.
First,
You
we have
plant
just added the sticks and it grew.
Wonderful. See how pretty it looks. You can do that with carrot tops. You can do that with mustard seeds. Just put that in a little bit of soil. You can let the mustard seeds go into plants which are about this big, about as big as my finger, and then you cut it and you put it on your sandwich and in your parathas and in your chapatis and your bhajis, everything you can do. My gosh, it tastes delicious. is very good. Try that. It's very.
Ma'am, do you know,
Hmm.
my mom read books about dragons.
Look at her. Look at her. She's not reading reality. She's reading fantasy. Just look at that. And does she tell you to study? Does she tell you? You study hard?
Yes, I read math books to increase my math calculation.
Yeah, you have to, at this age, you have to do both. You have to study and you have to also have fun. Right? Tanay Srivastava.
Ma'am, his mother is working with the virus institute here. Like, I mean, I'm not finding the correct word, but she's contributing greatly for the current scenario.
Ah, very good.
She's a
Fantastic.
she's a scientist.
She is a virologist and a scientist.
Yeah, see that we need scientists. We need scientists, a lot of them, because we
She
don't have
takes the
enough of them in the
samples and
India is very
then
good with scientists. Hmm?
she
What?
works hard in about 10-11 hours and sometimes more than 20 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Really? So
all
you're going to
time
do that
check
also?
the samples were standing like this. Check the
Wow.
samples with the
Tanay, are you going to
this
be a
much big
scientist also?
microscope. This much big
Wow.
microscope.
Wow. Are you also going to be a scientist, Tanay?
Yes.
See, I can see it already. You're not going to be a storyteller. You're going to be a scientist. Hmm? And you know what's going to happen? You know what the future is going to be? Scientists who tell stories. They're already there. There's scientists who tell stories about robots and scientists who tell
How
stories
do
about...
robots work?
Yes, there are so many, many, many stories to write.
Technology is yet to use. My mom worked at NIV. Full form is National Institute of Virology.
Wow. I'm not a scientist and I'm not even an... I have never studied science beyond standard 8 because in my time, we didn't have it. There was no...
She checks
We didn't have
samples.
to study physics and
She checks
chemistry. So I
samples
don't know
and tells
anything.
everyone in which corona is there or not. This much big microscope.
Oh my gosh.
She
Wow.
put samples on it and checked like this whether there is a corona on or not in it.
Ma'am, Tamanna here. Can I say something?
Yeah, who else is talking? Somebody else.
One last child. Okay, now then we will end our session. Yes, Tamanna, go ahead.
Ma'am, I don't have any question, but I want to say something to Leela, ma'am.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that I have written a story but not published it.
Okay.
Grade 3 child, ma'am. Yeah.
You finished editing it and all that? Have you finished editing it?
Yes, ma'am. The story is about two little sisters. The big sister's name is Rebecca and the small sister's name is Oliva.
Okay. So you have still to write the story or you finished writing it?
Finish writing, then my mother will read, and then my mother was saying that when you will write a story, I will draw everything what you want.
Ah, see, fantastic. Then you can make it into a little book
Yeah.
and you can give it as a gift to all your friends for their birthday.
Yes.
Little drawings and things will look very interesting.
I will
It'll
give
be
one of
most
the
interesting.
book. Ma'am, when is your birthday?
My birthday, my birthday is in April.
I will give you one of my books.
Ma'am, what
Yeah,
are
that
your
would be fantastic.
upcoming books?
Till the time I will,
It will take a while to get it all ready. And at that time, sure, now I would love to have a little copy of that. Would love it.
Ma'am?
Okay, I think we'll have to stop now.
Yes, ma'am. Tarleen, ma'am, would you like to conclude?
Yes, ma'am. So, thank you so much, Leela ma'am, for the great insight of an author's life. I think we have grasped enough that how do we write, evaluate, and edit it well, and then also we have a good insight how the publishers are going to be there with us, how they are going to behave, and how we have to be ready. And the most what took my attention was like how you mentioned that we should be studying about our India first, our own history. So our writers, our authors, they has to be read first. So that's a very good point that I always keep on telling him, ma'am, change the history. I don't want to learn the Indian history, what we have in books, that we are only being slaves there. So I want the true Indian history coming up. So I think that's the very interesting way to know our India, by our author's view. So
Absolutely.
I think that just caught my attention very well. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think this is going to be the best session for all our budding writers today, and even for me, since even I love writing and I have started writing now a little bit here and there, quotes and some poetries. So yeah, age is no bar. So you just start it anytime.
Yeah.
So a wonderful session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And bye-bye to all the children. Bye-bye to the teachers. Thank you for asking me to come.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The session very much.
Very much, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. I like this session. I want to know more about how to write books and all.
You
I want to come to your house. What are your upcoming books?
If
my,
you will
my
start,
the fifth
ma'am,
book
if you will
is
start
coming
the
up
camp
very-
again, I will like to join it.
that
Me
would be
too.
very,
Ma'am, I want to come to your house.
you can come sometime. Doesn't matter. Come.
Okay, so children, here we end the session because I'm sure for one more hour we can go on and talk to ma'am. But here I thanks Leela ma'am for coming and talking with our children. Thanks a lot. Once COVID situation is out, I would love to meet you and welcome you to our school. Thank you very much. So children, here we end. You have the next class also, and Leela ma'am has also given a lot of time. Thank you very much. Thanks, ma'am.
Ma'am, Vishnu here. I heard out.
Thank you. Thanks all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Vishnu here. Love this session. Ma'am, Vishnu here.
Now we will end the meeting. Those who are having any questions, they can write on WhatsApp to me. I will forward the questions to ma'am. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am. I have.
Thank you,
Ma'am, I
ma'am.
have.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
I have a
Leave the
section.
meeting now. Bye-bye.
Ma'am, I
Thank
have.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Vishnu,
Ma'am.
you connect with me.
Bye,
Write the
ma'am.
question.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
will
Bye,
forward it.
ma'am. I love this session.
Thank you, beta. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now you are getting late for next class. Bye.